Good morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit, in the gray hymnal. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame, witness the mystery of this hour, where all trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience we find, in spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather to sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Please be seated.
Good morning. Welcome on this snowy, rainy spring morning to the Ena River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship here in Durham, North Carolina. My name is Reverend Daniel Trollinger, Executive Minister, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, whoever you love, whatever your gender identity, your race, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. If you're new to this community or visiting for the first or second time, I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, so we may give you a proper ERUUF welcome. And for those of you on the live stream with your cup of coffee staying warm, please introduce yourself in the chat. If you have children with you, we invite you to attend one of our religious education classes as the children are sung out after the time of all ages. We also invite you to attend the Inquirers class for newcomers and visitors. It's held in the Care Building next door just after service. Fellowship with table and coffee is available in the fellowship hall after the service. Also over there, you will see the Board of Trustees. We have launched the annual Congregational Pulse Survey, so you can fill that out online at home or also at a laptop over there in the fellowship hall. Our annual pledge drive continues. Imagine, co-create, and thrive. So there's a card in your pew that you can fill out. You can also do that in the fellowship hall. So before you fill out your NCAA tournament bracket this week, make sure to make your pledge. Our special music today is provided by the Beloved Community Chorus. Wendy Looker is our music director. We welcome a guest pianist. This is Laura Sam. Today's tech team is Michelle Sager and John Felheim. Scott Gastings on sound. Chris Eagle, our IT consultant, has fixed some technical problems, so we hope the sound is working for the live stream. And now would be a good time to turn off your electronic devices or place them in worship mode. And let's center ourselves. Let's take a breath together. And let us begin worship.
Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. So let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. It may be me or it may be you. It may be your brother or your sister too. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. Traveling from near or lands afar. Traveling by the morning sun or the evening star. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. So let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. And it may be you or it may be me, traveling on land or the deep blue sea. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. In times of trouble and times of woe, don't you ever let your lamp burn low. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. So let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine all night long. There might be someone down in the valley trying to get home. Yes, there might be someone down in the valley trying to
So our opening words this morning are adapted from a poem some of you might recognize from Rumi. They've been adapted by Leslie Takahashi. Come, come, whoever you are, come with your hurts, your imperfections, your places that feel raw and exposed. Come, come, whoever you are, come with your strengths that the world shudders to hold. Come with your wild imaginings of a better world. Come with your hopes that no one wants to hear.
Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, we will make a place for you. We will build a home together. Ours is no caravan of despair. We journey together. Come, yet again, come.
May the light of our chalice this morning remind us of our light within. Yeah, this is it. You just go like that. May it remind us of our light within, and may it give light and warmth to our community, lighting the path of joy, peace, and our hope-filled imaginations. And so let us sing together again. Please rise in body or spirit, and Wendy will lead us.
We're going to sing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life, in the gray hymnal. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. Please turn and greet your neighbor.
Beloved community, my name is Brian.
And my name is Johan. We are the Montazi Woods. You know, 27 Sundays ago, we attended our first ERUUF service together on September 4th.
And being a quick study, we found ourselves signing the membership book less than 2 months later.
When I received a call last summer that I was being offered a faculty position at Duke, I almost immediately began to seek out a place that could be a welcoming, queer-affirming, anti-racist, spiritual hub for us to grow our family and ourselves.
Having moved so frequently over the last 5 years, Orlando, Berlin, Germany, Chicago, Burlington, Vermont, and now Durham, North Carolina. We felt an immediate sense of community when we walked through these doors.
You know, when you walk into a space that has friendly faces behind rainbow masks, wearing rainbow lanyard strings,
A couple of rainbow boys like us are ready to call a place home.
You know, we began to attend the weekly inquirers meetings where we experienced an intimate small group setting. We got to enjoy close contact with ministers and lay leaders as they cast a congregational vision for what it might mean to be an ERUUFian.
Just as important, we also got to hear other newcomers' personal stories about why they came here, what they went through in relationship to religion and spiritual practices, and even their struggle to return to what some might call church. In these meetings, we felt seen, heard, and that in spite of all of our differences on all of our various paths, we were not alone.
That this could be the place where we belong. I wanna be.
Anyway, like some of you, I didn't grow up attending church or with a spiritual practice. I did experience community in my college fraternity, Delta Sigma Phi, during my service with AmeriCorps Public Ally Chicago, and while performing at Disney World, where Johan and I met. With all of these, there was this sense of being part of something big, something magical. But moving around so much made it difficult to really develop long-term friendships. Once again, we found ourselves moving, and this time to Durham. But to be honest, I was a little hesitant about moving to the South. Whether I could find my people, my group, to enjoy good food and laughs, and of course, a good old drag brunch. During our short time here, we found ourselves in all of these things. Living in a time really when queerness and drag are being demonized, outlawed, and pushed back into the closet, I am confident that I'm part of a movement here that will continue to stand up for queer and trans communities.
That's right.
And at ERUUF, I experienced the grace and patience to develop a clearer sense of how I can contribute to the many social justice and environmental causes that we support and that I truly, deeply believe in.
You know, I did grow up in church, and so I bring a bag full of memories and feelings that can often be pricked by something as simple as familiar architecture, maybe a comment about my level of involvement, a style of music, or even the sometimes dreadful greet somebody around you moment that is ubiquitous to congregational life. Here I experience some of that. But what makes all the difference is a few someones curious enough to take a little more time to get to know an unfamiliar face beyond the service, to grab a drink, a coffee, or to be personally invited out to dinner so we can talk about the issues and the causes that drive us to action. Here, these gestures came toward us to such a degree that, like pillow hooks to the heart, we were drawn to return again and again, a new chosen family.
Perhaps for us, it was just the right proximity to where we moved.
Perhaps it was just the right moment with the election of Reverend Jacqueline Brett, whose virtual presence and leadership I was admiring even before we moved here.
Perhaps it was the social and environmental justice and the diverse community partners that drew us here.
Perhaps we came with ready hearts.
Perhaps it was
All of the above. Beloved community, we are so grateful for you.
This place and so many of the faces we see before us have come to be a foundation to build a new life in Durham.
And we are happy to be part of investing in new futures together that deepen and grow ourselves, our family,
And the larger community around us
for many years to come.
On that note of growing community and what we build together, I invite our smallest and our mediumest and our largest, yes indeed, ERUUFians down, and even our ERUUFians who are children at heart, for a little story to really begin our religious education time before we go to the care building. Oh my gosh, we've got some stuffies down here. I do love stuffies. If you ever visited my place, you'd see we've got a large collection of stuffies. We don't know what to do with them all. All right. Oh, are you okay? Did you take a tumble? Oh, they're at home. But there's a few people with a few of them here. You okay? Okay. Well, today's theme is co-create. Do you know what the word create means?
Make something.
Yeah, make something. What would co-create mean then, you think?
Make something together.
You make something together. That's our theme for service today. And today I've got a book from one of my favorite children's authors. It's probably behind me, isn't it? Yes, indeed it is. Mo Willems. If you know the Pigeon books or Gerald and Piggy, you know Mo Willems. This is called Because, and it's a story all about co-creation. Co-creation. All right. Many moons ago, because a man named Ludwig wrote beautiful music. Do you know who Ludwig is? Do you know who Ludwig is? Beethoven, yeah. Because a man named Ludwig wrote beautiful music, a man named Franz was inspired to create his own. Does anybody who know who Franz is? Schubert. Because many years later, many years later, people wanted to hear Franz's beautiful music. They formed an orchestra. What's an orchestra?
A big group of people that play music.
Do you agree with that? Indeed, you are both accurate. They formed an orchestra because a man had practiced since he was a kid. He was asked to join. Because a woman studied night and day, she too was asked to play. Because many others loved and practiced their instruments, there were enough musicians. Because someone created a poster about Franz's music. Oh my gosh, somebody's not even making music, but they're helping create. Because somebody created a poster about Franz's music, tickets were sold. Because the train conductor stopped the train at the Grand Concert Hall, the orchestra conductor arrived. Because the orchestra librarian had copies of the score, the orchestra rehearsed. Look at all these people it takes creating together. No, it doesn't look like much yet, but it takes every piece of it. It takes every piece. Because workers checked the lights and the seats and swept the floors, the grand hall was ready. Trust me, that is some important work. You don't see it glorified often, and it is important. Because the time had come, the ushers opened the doors, and then our scene changes. Because someone's uncle caught a cold, someone's aunt had an extra ticket for someone special. Hello. Because the usher helped the aunt and her special guest, they found their seats. And because everyone was here to hear beautiful music, it was quiet. what's about to happen. Exactly. Somebody made a violin motion. Wow. In row C, seat 14, she heard the beautiful music written by the man named Franz, and it changed her. The girl was changed. From that moment on, the girl learned everything she could about music. Soon, she started to write music too. Because, like Franz, the young woman had something to share. Over time, the woman became very good because she worked very hard. One night, her music was discovered because she was also very lucky. Then she was invited to perform her music at the Grand Concert Hall because so many people wanted to hear it. Her composition was dedicated to the uncle in row C, seat 14, because it was her ticket that brought her there, because he was sick that one day. Without him getting sick, she might never have loved music. And that night, someone else was changed. That is how it happens. We see our little secret hiding on the book cover here, that she's writing her music. And on the back, you see somebody else who gets changed, who grows, who learns, who loves new things. And that's part of what we do here. We help grow and encourage people and change together as a community. And in the spirit of co-creation, before we go, we have a secret moment. On the day of Reverend Jacqueline's installation, our children, during her installation, were helping co-create something in the care building. Reverend Jacqueline, would you come up here, please? And after they did some co-creation with some fabric and some panels,
Oh my God.
we had those panels turned into a stole
Oh, wow.
for Reverend Jacqueline.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Thank
So our
you.
children helped create these panels. Some of you were there, and I know there's some people who weren't there who helped create it too. So this is for you, and our children helped create this for you.
And this is Kasirian and Gara. Oh, how thoughtful.
Right.
Thank you so
And
much.
artist Andre Belton helped put it together. And down here you'll see a little lotus.
You like it? I like purple too. Thank you so much.
So in the spirit of co-creation,
Thank you. Wow.
very much to you.
Thank you. I'm going to wear it. Can I wear it?
Sure, you can wear it.
I think I'll put this other one off.
So thank you, children. Thank you, congregation.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I love it.
And now we will proceed on to the rest of our religious education time in the care building.
I invite you to join me now in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, this morning as a people who care and are committed to justice, may we remember to always keep our minds open, our hearts welcoming, and our arms embracing. With a spirit of gratitude, we celebrate the joy of being in community, of co-creating that community. We celebrate the coming of spring, even with rain and flurries, the beauty of the season. We celebrate the beginning of our pledge drive and the chance to work together collectively, to imagine, to co-create, and to thrive. May we always work to offer a place of belonging for all who come, to feel a part of something greater. It is our work shared with each other in covenant that creates and sustains this beloved community. As a people who care for one another, we lift up all of our prayers and blessings, and we hold in our hearts people all the world over who have been forgotten, who are marginalized, who are in crisis, and may have lost hope. We hold in our hearts those in our community and our own families who suffer, who mourn, who face the everyday difficulties of life. We hold in our hearts and lift up all those whose lives are touched by war, disaster, illness, or loneliness. Worry or despair, may they find comfort, hope, healing, and strength. And may we remember the light of love that calls us to our sacred purpose. As a welcoming and radically inclusive fellowship where we value the humanity of all who come through our doors. As a vibrant and diverse, engaged community where spirits are nourished and love finds action. As a visible force for justice, equity, and compassion in our community as we live into our UU values. On this day, let us pause in this moment of silence. And so it is. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
Good morning. So when you're looking at a daunting project, it's best to break things down into little bitty steps. That's common wisdom. We all know that. You organize how you're doing things, you make a list. This goes for everything from project management to party planning to writing a book. But rarely does anyone mention that not all of the steps will have the same distance between them. There are 2 steps that will always be different sizes than the others, and those are the steps that have to fight inertia. I'm talking about the first step and the last one. The first step is the scariest for most people. Is this the best place to start? Should I start tomorrow after a good night's sleep? How about after lunch, after bouncing some ideas off my partner, but after lunch I'm gonna be tired, so I should take a nap? We go bouncing around. Maybe after you read all of Wikipedia. The inertia of not doing the project is very strong. It takes so much more energy to get a ball rolling than it does to keep it. It's daunting. You move from potential energy, where anything is possible, to kinetic, where your possible outcomes just got narrowed down considerably by just choosing to get started. Going in a certain creative direction. That giant step from 0 to 1. Fear of failure is a big thing for all of us on any new project we tackle. But what we don't talk about is another fear, one that I blame on puritanical thinking for polluting our creative minds, and that's fear of wasted time or wasted work. If we start something new and go in the wrong direction on whatever we're working on, we just wasted all that time. We have regrets, we're frustrated, we're angry. We wasted effort, we wasted materials, we wasted money. We forget that every time we choose a wrong path to take, we learn one more thing not to do. Not to mention the odds now go up that the next choice will be the right one. Thomas Edison famously said he never failed by working to create the light bulb. He succeeded in finding 700 ways it wouldn't work. Last summer, when I started running, I promised myself I would just get going. Maybe I didn't run as fast or as far as the last time I did it, but I was fighting the inertia to get started, so it was a win just to get my shoes on and out the door. I was listening to an app that encouraged me to make a running mantra, and I chose, I've already won. Running wasn't the hard part. Getting dressed and out the door was the hard part. Writing isn't hard. Okay, writing's a little hard, I admit it, but sitting down at my desk, turning off my phone, closing tabs, that's hard. It's that first step, choosing a direction and risking making the wrong choice or wasting time. Many years ago, I worked on a gaming book with another writer. We were each supposed to write half the book. We emailed frequently and communicated, or so I thought. The next day, the day the book was due, he sent an email to me and my editor saying he was sorry, but he hadn't started yet. Yep, he hadn't been able to go from step 0 to step 1, and he pretended that everything was fine until it was absolutely too late. I don't know what kind of lesson he learned that day, but I definitely learned one in watching the fallout of his inaction. Just get started. It doesn't matter what direction, you can't fix something that doesn't exist. People worry about making something that's bad, or in the theme of today, having a partner and letting them down. There's the saying, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, but I promise you, a pig ear purse can still hold your change. Making something is always better than not. The other step that inertia makes difficult is the last step. Some people can get started and work merrily along, but they don't know when to stop. As a creator, finishing a project always has a tinge of bitterness for me, because nothing I create will be as glorious as I imagined it in my head. I will have to stop adding to it, editing it, researching it. I have to accept the flaws, and I will see flaws even if everyone else tells me it's amazing. But this is the other end of inertia, the energy you must put forth to stop the ball from rolling. It's declaring it done, for better or worse. And if you can't do that, then it's almost as bad as never starting. In my line of work, we say done is better than perfect. because we know there can't be a perfect book. We don't finish stories, we just stop. Experience teaches us when to stop, and you get experience from starting and making mistakes. See how I brought that all around? Yeah. In the themes of creativity and collaboration, whatever you're working on, if you're working alone or with a collaborator, you must acknowledge that the first step may be terrifying and the last step may take great effort. And please don't be afraid of failure or afraid of wasting time, because every step will teach you something. And everything we make, whether it's flawed or glorious, is better than silence.
Thank you, Myrrh. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here. I thought between the change in the time and the snow that 5 people would show up. And so it's so wonderful to see all of you. And the other thing that I want to acknowledge, yesterday, Alexander hosted the Inquirers Retreat Day, and it was amazing. How many people did you have, Alice? About 26 or? 26 people were at ERUUF taking inquiries, and I see some of them here today. Would you mind rising so that we can acknowledge you, those of you who were in that class yesterday? It is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And so, so here's the vision, all of you, the Montazi Woods. I mean, you got to see, you too can be, one of our newest members who are contributing quite a bit. Thank you very much. These days, it seems that everywhere I go, I hear talk about imagination, whether it's in discussions about ministry and the future of faith organizations such as ours, or how to solve what feels like increasing chaos in our communities, our country, our world, our planet. The use of our imaginations is the very essence of creativity. It is our very unique ability as a species to generate ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that can prove useful in addressing problems. But creativity also occurs within nature. Episcopal priest and theologian Matthew Fox asks, "What do we do with chaos?" We are told by those who have studied the processes of nature that creativity happens at the border between chaos and order. Chaos is a prelude to creativity. When faced with chaos, we humans, Fox says, we must ask the basic questions again. Who are we? Why are we here? How are we doing? Is the path we are on as a species as a healthy one for ourselves, our planet, and our children's 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 children to come? If our path is not a healthy one, what are we doing about it? What can we do about it? What constitutes our authentic strength as a species? What constitutes our gravest dangers as a species? Matthew Fox asks. It is out of the chaos of our times that Fox proposes such questions which would activate our imagination and our creativity so that something new might emerge. Because we cannot solve the current chaos at the level at which it began. We must wrestle with it, take it apart, deconstruct, and reconstruct from it. Second, we cannot stop at imagination. Creative thinking is needed, but it doesn't bring things into being. A vision not acted upon remains an idea, a dream. So we must create beyond the level of thought and imagination. As Myrrh pointed out, as she described her creative collaboration with a colleague, there's a practical side to imagination and creativity. we have to get started. We must move from step 0 to step 1. Over recent months, we here at ERUUF have discerned 5 domains which we, as a congregation, will co-create at this time. 5 domains our imaginations have brought forward and through which we will build a new strategic plan. But it is not enough for us to simply imagine things. To co-create requires that we act upon them together. We will set goals, to be sure, and objectives, but even to realize these, which reflect our imagining, calls us to move beyond all of our ideas to the action of creating. In so doing, we are called to another level of specific considerations, and I'll name 5 of those. First, though it might appear to be counterintuitive to what I've just described, we must begin by asking, as Matthew Fox proposes, who are we? Who are we being in all this creating as we act to hold open the space for something new to emerge? San Francisco activist Benjamin McBride says, "We are trying to go about creating change that is transactional instead of transformative." This type of thinking assumes that somehow the current version of ourselves can actually give birth to something different in our society. McBride says, the wrong first question is, what do we need to do? The right first question is, who must we become? These are important questions because we are not the only people imagining or creating things. It took imagination to create the Atlantic slave trade, to create Auschwitz, to create terrorism, to create war. The fouling of our environment, our rivers, forests, and soil are also the result of human creativity, ingenuity, and imagination. The opportunity in a community such as ours is how to apply our creativity in service to justice and compassion, to create with intention for the well-being of all. And the interesting thing about well-being, rather than the oft-proclaimed good of all, is that I can assume good based on my perspective, but I need to be in relationship with other beings or the planet itself to understand what is needed for another's well-being. Though we can assume certain essential things are needed for basic survival, as we go a level deeper, we need to find out what is needed for the well-being of another, which leads to a second consideration. A co-creative process means we are in relationship with others, whether it is another human, an animal, an insect, or our planet itself. We are in relationship as members of the interconnected web of all existence, of which we are a part. It means we're imagining and acting creatively together to bring something into being. Even with those some of us might be pressed to imagine acting creatively with, such as animals, or trees, or our planet. People in the performing arts especially understand something about this. As performing artists, Johann and Brian Matazi would understand this. In the story Reverend Jim told earlier, people were brought into the imagination of others and ultimately a co-creative process with the result that a series of relationships changed lives. There is currently an excellent one-person show at the Playmakers Theater in Chapel Hill. The show is excellent, and it's an excellent example of what I'm talking about because not only in the relationships in the story that the performer shares, but also in the show's music and all of its other elements. One of my sons who saw it with me on Friday night told me that He was part of the audience when this play was being developed right here in downtown Durham. As the author, who is also the show's sole actor, placed himself in a co-creative relationship with members of the community as he developed his project, which my son said had greatly evolved at Playmakers from where it had been. Third, in relationship, we need to understand what we're doing and how we need to approach it so that we do not, with good intentions, have the impact of creating harm. It's not enough to be shown the right tools. It's like being given a circular saw and someone saying, here's a circular saw, here's what it does, here's how to use it. And yet, if we're not putting effort into learning how to use it effectively and with the right kind of care, we can do great harm both to ourselves and potentially to others. Finding out through relationship what it is that we still don't know about is so that creative action can be approached while remembering we are interconnected, interdependent, and that there's no one of us who has all the answers. In fact, we might sincerely believe we have a solution only to find out it is unneeded or way off base. We may have an answer from our perspective, but we must offer it with an ongoing learning that engages spiritual and ethical practices of respect, curiosity, and most of all, humility. Respect is core to our UU values, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, as well as justice, equity, and compassion in our relationships. Remaining curious keeps us from becoming judgmental, jumping to conclusions or making assumptions about what is needed. And by doing all of this with humility, we do not assume that we have all the answers, even if we do have certain levels of expertise. There is always something we do not know that someone else, based from their vantage point, their understanding, or their lived experience, do know. Embedded in all of this is the mantra and practice of nothing about us without us. Essentially, no plan is made for a group without first asking them about what is needed, and most ideally collaborating with them at the level of imagination when plans are first being created and born. One of the core tenets of organizing for any type of change is in listening to what people say is important. And so whether we are talking about the needs of the families, children, and youth here at ERUUF, or the people impacted by environmental injustice in eastern North Carolina or East Durham, or the lack of affordable housing in Durham that is pushing entire populations and demographics of people out of this city, we must not only bring expertise and ideas to bear, but also listen to what people say they most need. Being in relationship is important because while our singular actions might take care of a singular thing, it is when we are working together with others and building community and coalitions joined together in partnership to create change and serve needs that we begin to make a lasting, sustainable change. When people or organizations do not work in relationship with others, with respect, with curiosity and humility, and the solution that was created that they thought would be the answer does not work, what sometimes happens is that the very people they set out to help are then blamed for the solution not working. This is very common. They're blamed for the solution not working when they were never invited at the outset to devise the solution that was most needed, to be brought in as co-creators. 4, we don't need to spend an unending amount of time engaged in learning alone. We can, with respect, humility, and curiosity, learn and do at the same time. In last year's 2,500 Hours of Love project, many people here participated in basic activities that expanded awareness and deepened learning about racial equity, while they also made contributions to communities beyond our walls. We can do this in any given area of co-creating. And 5, we must not be lulled into a comfort zone and stop action once we've accomplished something. And giving up is not an option. As the Voting Rights Act, reproductive justice, and now LGBT rights are demonstrating, we must continue to tend to those situations that have resulted in change to make sure they continue to thrive. As we would a plant that we would want to see continue to grow, we would not ignore it and just let it sit there. We would do something to continue to tend to it so that it would thrive. The other thing is that giving up is not an option. Resting is an option. And tending to self-care are options. Giving up is not an option. In his book, Become America, Eric Liu, the founder of Citizen University, says of his relationship with Reverend William Barber. He says, Reverend Barber looks at what's going on nationally and says that this is hard, but it is not new. He reminds us that Steve Bannon was around in 1877 when white supremacists took over Congress and put an end to Reconstruction. Richard Spencer and the Tiki Torchbearers of Charlottesville were there in 1921 when nativists rigged the immigration system to block almost everyone who wasn't from Western Europe. And Donald Trump was in the Oval Office in 1942 when the internment of Japanese Americans got underway. Putting today's fights in the context of history might make some people feel dispirited, Eric Liu says. But we're still fighting these same fights, people might ask. But Barber does it to give us heart. We've fought and we've won these fights before. And he does it to remind us that there's no quitting, ever. In some spiritual traditions, it is recognized that there will always be suffering. It is part of the human condition. Some of it is our personal suffering, and some of it is societal conditions that get created, sometimes unintentionally, but sadly, very often with great intention. So what do? We must continue being attentive, aware, and creative. And finally, we must bring to bear our resources. And so in the second week of our pledge campaign, I offer you the metaphor of a root-bound plant. A beautiful plant that has so much potential for growth, but because its roots have filled up the pot, it has nowhere else to go in its own growth. Co-creating takes resources. It takes the resources of our effort and commitment to taking action. But it also takes financial resources to engage in the actions, like as we look ahead for what we're planning moving forward. We have two primary points of focus. First is to continue addressing our internal needs as a community. We'll be returning to 2 services beginning in the fall. And we will be upgrading technology in the fellowship hall, the commons room, and outside this sanctuary. We'll be addressing the curriculum and spiritual needs of our children, youth, and families. We'll be continuing in our commitment to deepening our learning about racial equity and racial justice. This is not only as an embodiment of our spirituality, ethics, and values, but studies about thriving congregations that are currently doing well are showing two things. They are multiracial and multicultural. They attract young people who expect this. Some of you might have read in this week's e-news that Arvid Schraube is coming here and will be leading service on April 2nd. For those of you who don't know Arvid, he is our Minister Emeritus. But he will also be giving a talk on March 29th in which he will be talking about this very thing. What does it take to be a thriving congregation? And he views us as a thriving congregation. Another thing that we're aiming toward internally is that we need to increase staffing. We need to increase staffing for our religious education programs, our administrative technology, people who keep things like this going, especially as we return to 2 services. And we also want to have staffing that's related specifically to our justice work. As we turn our sights outward, which is the second area of focus that we're keeping ourselves toward, setting our sights toward, you know, we want to be in relationship with the larger denomination and more significantly with the communities around us and the state of North Carolina itself. As I mentioned, I think last week, we're in a unique position. Not only are we the largest UU congregation in the Southeast, we are one of the largest progressive congregations in this city with more freedom than some others. And so how do we bring our moral, spiritual, and ethical imagination to bear in using our unique freedom and our resources on behalf of others? So here's the thing. We have a $1.1 million budget here at ERUUF. That budget doesn't come out of thin air, and it's a $1.1 million budget at the capacity that we're at right now. This is about what it takes for us to keep going. And this is a clarion call to all of us to participate in whatever way we can. What does it mean? Whatever you give goes into the pot and helps it broaden the pot to give our roots space to grow. You know, I contribute to some organizations beyond ERUUF. I contribute here as well. I'm a sustainer to those, or in some of those organizations, actually in most of them, because their contribution is important to me, to the values I hold, including the value of generosity. My initial contributions in some cases were minimal, and over the years my giving has increased in part because my life circumstances changed, but also because as I gave, I wanted to give more to make sure the organization would be sustained. And also, because just by the act of giving and knowing that I was participating in the life of an organization I cared about and focusing and supporting their good work that I sometimes received a benefit from directly, as I receive a benefit directly here at ERUUF or NPR, or in some cases, I don't receive a direct benefit from the organization, except in my knowledge of mutuality, that in the interdependent web of all existence of which I am a part, that the well-being or lessening of any amount of suffering in the world to any other human being or our planet itself or any other being has an impact on me as well. The reality is sometimes we do have to give a little less because life changes in that way as well. I recognize that. But today I want to issue what I'm calling the root-bound pot challenge. So my request of every single person at ERUUF if you're a member, if you're a friend, and even if you just like coming here, is would you be willing to give up something in service to expanding ERUUF's root-bound pot by offering a pledge? And I haven't even done the call for the offering yet. I'm just issuing this challenge. If we here at ERUUF, our plant, a beautiful, beautiful plant on the outside, but we're root-bound in a pot that does not provide us the room to be or become more, then we shall remain as we are, which is all right. I think we're all right. And we'll be functioning at the level that we've been functioning at. And I will say something about that level. We are still not at the pledge level that we were at in 2019 prior to the pandemic. So we are actually drawing from our reserves and operating at a deficit budget in terms of pledges. And so I want you to hold this and take this to heart. And I want to leave you with these words from Margaret Wheatley, who says, "We can't continue to operate from this blind faith in human ingenuity alone. Our ingenuity has already provided solutions to critical problems. We already know how to create a healthy, life-affirming future for all peoples. We have a different problem developing the will to act once we know what to do. The gap between knowing and doing is only bridged by the human heart. The future comes from where we are now. The future won't change until we look thoughtfully at our present. We have sufficient human capacities to think and reflect together, to care about one another, to act courageously, to reclaim the future. These great human capacities moved into action are what give me faith in the future, she says. It's what gives me faith as well. And so may it be so, my friends. May we make it so. Amen, ashe, and blessed be. All right. So it takes a lot to keep this place going, whether it's week to week or year to year or day to day. In your pews, you'll see this new card. On one side, it is a card for digital giving. And so if you want to make a contribution today and you don't have a cash or checks with you, the greeters can come forward. You can actually point your device at the little QR code and give a gift for today. Or you may pledge, which is on the other side of this card. And so you may also point your device at this QR code. It will take you right to our page for pledging. And you can put in your pledge there, or you can write it in, fold it, and drop it off at the office. So it takes a lot. It's the root-bound pot pledge for every person at ERUUF.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Whoa, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it. That I have, oh, now, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, oh, The world didn't give it to me. Don't you know this faith that I have? The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. This hope that I have. Oh yeah. The world didn't give it to me. World didn't give me this hope. Oh yeah now. World didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. This love that I have. Oh yeah, yeah. World didn't give me this love. Oh yeah. World didn't give it to me. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it. This joy that I have. Yeah, yeah. The world didn't give it. World didn't give us our joy. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away.
Well, we give thanks. We give thanks for all of the blessings of this beloved community, of just the fact that we get to be in community, we get to co-create and imagine together. May it be so. And I'll turn it over to Wendy for our final hymn.
I was going to say, please rise, but you're mostly risen already. Well, please join me in singing Blue Boat Home, number 1064, in your teal hymnal.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never the wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companion, all we care
Our closing words today is from UU musician Matt Meyer, who writes, "May we go forward in purposeful rhythm, that we may give voice to the melody of our imaginations, the music of our souls, and all the possibilities of a just world as we might together create it." Go in peace, my friends. Go in love, and let us take on our root-bound pot.